usual disclaimer, etc. To summarize, Eurasia has been around for quite a while, and in our second coming, which started in 2001, we have concentrated on exploring for platinum group metals in Russia. And this has been quite successful in that we found 4 projects to date. And we have concentrated on 2 of the projects which we discovered. The first one is alluvial platinum project in the Urals, and the second project is a bedrock PGM project in the Kola Peninsula in northwest Russia. More recently then, we've been looking at a gold tailings opportunity in the southern Urals, which I'll talk about shortly. Looking at the ownerships that we have at the moment in the 3 projects, the Urals project at West Kytlim, we have a 75% equity with our partner is a local platinum producer. And this project was originally formed as a joint venture with Anglo Platinum many years ago. And the reason that they were interested in alluvial platinum was that it would hopefully give rise to rapid cash flow, which they could spend outside South Africa, because in those days there was quite strict exchange control on the rand. Anglo pulled out of the project finally last year, just as we're getting ready to mine, which of course for a junior company that suited us just fine. It cost us $3 to buy the project back from them. So we have in the meantime have been working on the other project in Monchetundra, which was also in joint venture with Anglo originally, and that's a bedrock target, which I'll touch on. And then thirdly, our new opportunity in the southern Urals. You can see on the map, just to point it out, northwest Russia, near the Finnish border, is Monchetundra. The alluvial platinum project is in the Urals, which pretty well runs in a straight line along that white boundary there, along the Urals chain. And you have the West Kytlim license and then the Semanovsky tailings, the new project in the south. So, quick summary, mine planning is advanced at West Kytlim. We are aiming to go into production in the summer of next year. Alluvial mining is a summer activity, so we can't do it in the winter, but we have 1 or 2 smaller permits to get under our belt, the main one being a right to cut down the trees from the forestry department. That takes 3 to 4 months, and we started that some time ago. In Semanovsky, we have a 6-month project design phase and due diligence with our partner Metal Tiger, and that's underway. And then finally, we've been exploring. We're drilling up 4,000 meters to finish off what the Russians call a tail, which is a feasibility study that allows you to file for a discovery certificate and then apply for a mining license. Just outlook on platinum. There's not a lot I can say about that. I'm a geologist, but let me just say that this year the market is a deficit estimated of 300,000 ounces. And it's thought to be in balance next year. The price is terrible, I have to say. I have to be admitted that it's $850 an ounce, which is really low. But the point, which I'll touch on shortly, is that our operating costs at West Kytlim are considerably lower than that. In palladium, there's also a deficit, and our project in Kola, in Monchetundra, is palladium dominant. West Kytlim, the reserve's been approved, as I said. We are aiming to start production from one sub-area called Sosnovka. The reason being that we have already got all the permits we need for that particular area. And we also can mobilize diesel equipment to do the mining. At the current time, we have a very conservative development plan whereby we gear up over 3 years with 1 operating unit in Sosnovka next summer. The following year, 2 operating units, and the year after that, 3. And in between, we will, instead of having all diesel, the heavy lifting will be done by electric-powered dragline, which is a third less operating cost than using diesel. This just shows a map of the river complex in which we have our reserves. The reserves are shown in orange, which will be enough to sustain a 10-year mine life. And then in blue, we have what's resources, which will then be drilled up in parallel with our mining, which should ideally double life of the project. Or certainly, we reckon we get a minimum of 16 years altogether. And you can see that in the last few years, we've added considerably to the reserves. And the last figure, the 2283 kilos, 2.3 tons roughly of platinum were lodged as part of our mining license, which was granted in the summer. For those of you who don't know anything about alluvial mining, it's very different from all the other companies you hear. It's very unusual for a listed company to be involved in alluvial mining, mainly because in the world, most alluvial mining is for gold, which does not suit a company at all, because the biggest problem with alluvial gold is theft. It's very easy for people to steal gold because they can see it at lots of different stages in the production. With platinum alluvial mining, it's very different, because we'll be producing what is a black sand in quantities which you could not lift a platinum grain out of the production. And so we'll be bagging every day, we'll be bagging up our heavy mineral concentrate. It'll go back to our secure laboratory off-site where the platinum is further concentrated. The concentration process is basically washing gravels and making a heavy mineral concentrate. Very, very simple technology. For that reason, it's also relatively cheap. In terms of exploration, we ourselves developed a scientific approach to measuring the reserves. Again, some people say, oh, you can't do reserves on alluvials. This is incorrect. It's just that in the West, we never bothered to try and find out how to do that. While in Russia, there are about 80 alluvial producers every year working away, some of them with 30-year projects, 20-year projects. You couldn't do that if you couldn't measure the reserves. The technology I touched on already. As I said, we'll start with diesel, which will be bulldozers and loaders and one washing plant, all powered on diesel. And then on the top right there, you see a typical drag line that would run on electrics, and that would come in later when we're moving much larger volumes. And that's the kind of work we can do in the winter by doing a pre-strip if there's overburden, or for stockpiling, or for later washing in the following summer. In terms of operating cost, you have up there a producer cost curve from 2013. And to be fair to the South Africans, the rand has depreciated considerably since that time. But nevertheless, at $850 an ounce today, you're looking at most of the South African underground mines being underwater, operating cost-wise. We aim to be pretty low on the costs, and that's also helped by the devaluation of the Russian ruble, which halved since last October. The operating environment in Russia, there will of course be some inflation, but nevertheless most of the equipment and most of the technology, and indeed all the experienced staff and management, are sourced in Russia, and so the costs are pretty much 80-90% rubles. Moving to the second project in Monchetundra in the Kola Peninsula, this is an area that has been mined extensively since the early part of the 20th century, producing nickel and copper with byproduct platinum and palladium. And there is, in the town where we're based in Monchetundra, which is located in the center of the Kola Peninsula, just there. It's about 180 kilometers south of Murmansk, which is an international airport. And our license is just about 6 kilometers outside the city of Monchetundra. And there is excellent infrastructure, power, road, rail, you name it. So it's a very well positioned project. We have been working on it since 2006, and Anglo did all the work in the early years and spent around $11 million to earn their 40% stake, which of course they've now sold back to us. The license covers a complex, I'll just be geological for 30 seconds. It covers a complex of ultramafic rocks, not dissimilar to what you have in the Bushveld in South Africa. The mineralization consists of layered PGM mineralization within the complex of these ultramafic rocks, and we targeted as a priority occurrences of PGM mineralization where we could see an open pit, which would be the cheapest form of mining. And basically we have two areas of interest. One is Loipishnun in the south, here, and the other area is West Nittis in the north. And there is potential for much deeper mineralization in this Pentland Creek area, but again, we didn't target underground platinum at this stage of our program. It is more expensive, of course, to explore for hard rock occurrences than it is for alluvials, but nevertheless, we've been steadily working on it for a number of years with good results, discoveries, obviously. The one thing I would point out is that, actually this slide doesn't have it, but the mineralization which we discovered at West Nittis in particular, apart from having a stratabound mineralization which is economic in its own right, we discovered these cross-cutting veins with up to 90 grams per ton combined PGM mineralization, which is really, really high. I mean, an underground mine in South Africa will be 10 grams at best, and the open pits will be 1 to 2 grams, which is exactly what we were exploring. But these veins are a little sweetener on top of the main ore body which we're exploring. The drilling we're doing now, as I said, is to bring the resources to measured and indicated, and in preparation for the feasibility study to be submitted to the Russian government. The new project we're looking at in the southern Urals is a tailings project, meaning that it's the waste from a previous mining of, it was 4 gold deposits that were mined over a period of about 30 years, and they used the one tailings pond for this production. The recovery of the plant wasn't very good, and so the tailings are grading around 1 gram per ton, but the metallurgy of the tailings is not simple because it's 4 deposits dumped into one pond. So our work to date was really conservative, looking at 50% recovery rather than anything else without trying to tweak the plant. And it still stacks up with a very fine internal rate of return of 65%. Together with Metal Tiger, who we have a strategic alliance with, we're now entering a period of due diligence which will involve doing more detailed metallurgy over the next few months and writing up the reserves to submit to the government for the mining development plan. And we would aim, our target is to be ready to put a plan for development of the deposit on our own board's table by the end of 2016. So this would be another project that would come into the pipeline in late 2016. This just shows an overview from the air of the tailings site, located there on the left-hand side, and it's not very deep. It's at the deepest point, it's 10 meters. But we would build a new plant. The old plant is located, the one that was used to make the tailings is located here, and it gets used from time to time with the more modern output going into this pond here and this one here. So this one here is finished, and that's the one we will rework, but we will build our facility at the other side of the pond, so we have nothing to do with the old workings. I've already touched on the grades and so on. By the way, we have a presentation you can take with you afterwards if you're interested, so I don't need to go through all these numbers, but suffice to say that we find this project ideal. What we've been doing is, all the time we've been working in Russia, we've been looking at finding other projects we could develop, because there's hardly anybody else working in the Russian space, and yet it's the largest country in the world. It is probably the most underexplored country in the world right now, and there are many reasons for this, but it's the sheer size that's the most interesting part of working in Russia, and the very varied geology, and the fact that exploration ceased pretty much when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1990. So we have effectively 25 years of inactivity, restricted basically to camps that are already well known in the country. And we've been looking at new projects all this time, and they were always too expensive because projects that were advanced were few and far between and the price was too high. Now, with the recession for the last few years, at last projects are looking very attractive indeed, and this tailings one is a good example of a simple project that suits Eurasia, not too complicated, can be fitted into our current management structure easily, and can be managed either in joint venture with Metal Tiger or on our own, depending on what they decide to do. So there are a couple of other things we've been looking at. Some of you who are shareholders will be aware that we have an interest in a uranium project in Kyrgyzstan, which is finishing off a feasibility study today, and which, unfortunately, I can't give you the rates of return, but they are excellent, and we are looking at ways to finance this. And as I said already, we are still looking at other gold projects together with Metal Tiger. So in summary, Eurasia, we are moving from exploration to development. We hope to have our first production this coming summer. We're doing our very best to avoid further dilution of existing shareholders by trying to find alternative sources of finance. This is not easy. I'm not promising we'll succeed, but we're certainly making it a priority. I'm a shareholder myself. The last thing you want is to see it, continually being battered in the storms we're all living in at the moment. But what makes me happy is the fact that we can actually see an end to money going out the door. There will be money coming in the door, hopefully, by the end of this summer. We have other projects in the pipeline. We're not sitting still. We think that we're able to manage these projects without having to find big partners or technical assistance or whatever. We've kept the projects simple, that match a company like Eurasia's size. And we have at the same time a project in Monchetundra in Kola, which is very much a big company project, and which we're preparing, if you like, for sale or joint venture or whatever. And we have a number of people interested in that project, and I'm hopeful that that might be one potential way we avoid in diluting shareholders for the production story that I'm telling you today. So, in summary, we've no debt, we're ready to go, and we're extremely hopeful that we finally reach the point that Eurasia has wanted to be for some time. Thank you. Any questions? As I said, Keith, if you stand up, if you wanted a presentation of what I said, Keith has the documents.